Welcome back to the channel. Slightly different video today, not out in the Range Rover. I want to walk you through all of the components that I'm planning to put in the back for the dual battery system and all the electrics that need to go in there. So it's going to be slightly different in how I approach this, is that with the L322, it's very difficult to find sort of drawers or any sorts of components like you can with the Defender. So on the Defender I've got a drifter drawer system, absolutely love it, full length. You can't really buy anything like that unless you go custom for the L322. So I'm going to have to build something, a frame to house my fridge slider, and also to hold my Step 22 bags. Now those bags are brilliant, they're rugged, they can be strapped down, but in the back of the L322 I'm going to build a frame, and it's going to be difficult, probably difficult for you to visualize it. But in essence, what I'm going to do is on the left-hand side of the load space of the L322, I'm going to build a 25mm box tubed frame, which actually has just arrived. I was recording one version of this and they knocked on the door. That's just shown up. And that's got different plastic push-fit connectors, so you can build a box. And that box could be any variation. And so I've got a really good idea of what it needs to look like, and unfortunately when you build these things, it's one of these things you're going to have to modify as you go. So on the left hand side we'll go the fridge. On a fridge slide it'll be raised up slightly so you can pull the fridge out. On the right, the Step 22 bags will be fitted into a lower frame, and then the top of it will be covered. So what I want to do is to be able to build this frame that does a couple of things. One, can come out really easy. So attaching it to the load space floor lift to get to the spare wheel with 2 riv nuts will keep it firmly down. Second is, I don't want it higher than where the load space cover goes. So if it does stay in there, the load space cover can go over the top so no one can really see it. But when I go traveling, I can take the load space cover out and I have a flat surface so I can continue to stack things up and strap them down. So that's really what the idea is. It's going to be sort of like a box with 2 boxes inside it. On the far right hand side, if you can visualize what the L322 looks like on the back, on my version there's a pull down cover, and in there is a fuse board. The ECU is in there for the suspension system, and at the bottom of that there is a tray where you can put a second battery. It's only big enough to probably put an Optima battery in there, so I've got an Optima yellow top, 55 amp hours, which is going to be enough for what I do. But then I'm going to start building just a flat board, screw it to the side of this frame that I have, and then on there will go a number of different things, and I wanted to show you what I have. So I'm going to run a really thick Anderson cable, and that will go from the battery to this frame, so I can disconnect it when I'm not in use, and then I can store it somewhere else to open up the load space. But clearly to do that I need quick fit connectors, and the best thing to do is Anderson plugs. On the board, I'm going to run the Anderson plugs to the board to a couple of distribution blocks, and then that will provide power to the ancillaries that are going to go onto that board. So I also have a dual battery cables, and then I bought these really cool 3D printed panels. So USBs will go in here, and then I've got Anderson plugs that will connect into my solar blanket that I've got. But also I need to run power to the tent. And on the Defender I have just a socket behind the driver's seat that I plug in on an Anderson plug and then run it up and plug it into the bottom of the tent. So this is going to replicate that to give me the Anderson plug capability, plug it in, plug it out. So everything's going to have to go quick fit with Anderson plugs. For running things like my compressor, the fridge, I've got this really cool switch panel that will sit flush on the top, and then I can just reach in, turn on, turn off, it's all labeled. I've got a Victron battery monitor that's on its way. That will provide the shunt, which will give me Bluetooth through the app they have. It's a Bluetooth monitor, so I can see what my auxiliary battery's power looking like. On the Defender I have a Redarc system. I have a Redarc Manager 30, which has a display panel which you just basically turn it on and you can see the battery utilization on both sets of batteries, rear and front. For this purpose I didn't want to go down the Red Vision route just yet. I don't think I need it. because I'm not going to be putting lights on it. The lights on this thing on the L322 are fine. So for now, I have a Redarc Bc Dc Charger. And I was quite surprised how small this is. And this will provide with the ability to run power between both batteries. It's not controlled by an app, which I'm used to doing, but it's fine. And then I have all the plugs and everything to run solar off this as well. So this will go onto that fuse board and then provide all the connections for that. I have a dual compressor with a pump up kit, and then the pump up kit is going to go to a separate external plug on this frame. So at the bottom I'll just have the air chuck poking out so I can drop down the tailgate, plug it in when I need to pump up my tyres. A hefty Arb dual compressor, that will sit on that board as well. That's pretty heavy, and so I have this mount, and I have one on the Defender. It's from a company called Quick Draw. They're in the States, it's about 30 bucks, but it is I can quickly show you. There are two plates that bolt the air compressor onto the plates, and then these two bolts sit on really strong rubber washers. And those rubber washers, see how big they are? They sit at the bottom here. That stops any vibration, and because this is going to go on a wooden panel attached to a frame, that panel will be screwed on, but this will bolt into the wood, or the frame that this is all sitting on, and then it will stop any flex and vibration. But this is from a company called Quick Draw in the States, about 30 odd bucks. I ordered this on a Monday, this showed up on a Friday. Didn't even have to pay any import charges because they're below $100 in value. So all of this has got to go into the back of the Defender over the coming weeks and months. Now, one of the big issues I have, this has all got to go into the L322 over the coming months. I keep getting Defender on the brain. Living in London, we have a really small driveway. So my missus has an Audi A3 which fits, the Defender fits. The problem is the Range Rover doesn't fit without sticking its nose or tail onto the pathway or even into the road. So when I had the Defender on the driveway, when I put the dual battery system in there, I spent 3 months doing it, which was fine, it never moved anywhere. So the big issue I'm going to have now is I'm going to be limited on time. I cannot do all this in the road. It's just not correct to do it in the road anyway. So I only have two places where I can go to actually fit all this. So one of them is my father's, the other one is the mother-in-law's, who've got some off-street parking where I can go do these things. So this is going to take a while to do, and clearly I need to make sure I have all the parts before I even attempt to do it. So bear with me while this goes ahead. The first thing obviously I need to do is build the frame. And thankfully I've got all the materials that have showed up to do that over the weekend, and I can start cracking on with that. And then the battery's going to have to go in. So won't be able to work on it at home. I'm just going to have to pick my battles when I go down to visit different, the in-laws and the outlaws, to be able to go and put this together. So I hope this was useful for you. As I go through this, I will record what I'm planning on doing and how it's all set up. It's going to be difficult to do, as I mentioned before, because the camera's going to have to go up behind me, but this is all got to go in, and there are more cables, wires and Anderson plugs coming. So there might be some subtle variations in what I think it's going to look like to ultimately what it will look like when it's all in. But I hope to have all this done probably by the time I get into January. So it'll probably take 2 or 3 weekends backwards and forwards across different parts of the UK to get it done, but I'm pretty confident can get it done. So I hope that was helpful for you. The only other thing I'm going to leave you with is if you have an L322 and your rear load space rattles, some of these clips come out. So I do have a broken clip, but I found a way to stop it rattling. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but hopefully you can. If you get some heat shrink, put them on the end of the plugs, heat shrink it, cut it, it stops it rattling. So I do have one that's broken on one end, which I've got to replace, but I've tried it and it works. So it stops this plastic on plastic rattling around. So heat shrink over the top of the pins, Robert's your father's brother. So I hope that was useful, a little bit of a top tip for you. And with that, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.